Hey there, this is Matt with State of Flux, here with another one of my Studio Ghibli reviews, this time talking about the Tales from Earthsea. This is the first film by Goro Miyazaki, and I've seen the movie 2 times now and have been disappointed 2 times, but for different reasons. The first time I watched this movie, I thought it was pretty lackluster in just about every way imaginable. I thought it was a bad Ghibli film. To that point, I felt it was the worst Ghibli film. I don't feel that necessarily at all anymore. But I just felt like Goro Miyazaki is certainly not his father. And I was comparing it to his father's work, which isn't necessarily the kindest thing to do, and it was kind of bad faith criticism if I'm being honest. Coming to it this time around, I have since read Ursula K. Le Guin's Earthsea novels, and my disappointment for this film as a whole is stemming from it being a pretty remarkably bad adaptation of some very good books. Particularly that first Earthsea book is my favorite of the bunch, and it's like they just wanted the name recognition and they wanted nothing else more than that and some of the character names, because the characters don't behave or act really at all like their counterparts in literature, and none of the sequences really are present. Like, a couple of them, yes, are stretched and pulled into being forced into what this movie needs them to be, but largely it is a pretty god-awful adaptation. This is nothing new for Ghibli. They have twisted and changed many works in the past, from Kiki's Delivery Service to Howl's Moving Castle, which I just reviewed very positively not too long ago. But upon this rewatch, even though I was so disappointed watching it for the first time, having read the books as an adaptation of it, I was granted a new appreciation of the work Goro Miyazaki put into this film to differentiate himself from his father, and well, also try to make a movie that would make his father proud, which I hear he did not, and that whole relationship is just tethered in darkness and sadness, and it frames how you watch Goro's movies kind of a lot once you learn about that relationship. That being said, I think that I was being a little harsh on it the first time around. It is very different from something like Princess Mononoke or Howl's Moving Castle, which is what I wanted it to be upon first watch. Here I'm watching something that takes some of the visual flair of his father's work, but done in his own style. And I think the backgrounds of this film are extraordinary. And I don't know how I didn't recognize that the first time around. I didn't think this was a particularly good looking movie the first time I saw it. And I really think it's quite good looking now. I like what they did with the characters and how they look, especially the villain, who, voiced by, I believe, Willem Dafoe, is quite good. The voice work in this, as in most of the Ghibli things, are quite good. I like Mariska Hargitay is an undervalued actress that we have, and she should really do more work outside of Law & Order, though I love her in Law & Order. Yeah, upon watching it this time around, I enjoyed the fantasy of it and the epic yet grounded, much more grounded approach that it takes, not dealing necessarily with gods and monsters, but people and the monsters that they can inhabit and become. That worked for me a lot more this time around. It's still kind of nothing to write home about, and I think that's the ultimate tragedy of the film, is that if you want epic adventure films with grand scope, Ghibli's just done it better, and it did so in movies that look kind of the same or very similar i.e. your Princess Mononoke's, or even Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. And that's... So from that angle, it doesn't work, and there's really nothing in this film you haven't seen before elsewhere better. And that's disappointing, because there is good here. It's just, for the standards of a studio that have made you as an audience member expect greatness and just to deliver fine, feels like a bigger smack in the face than it ultimately is. That's why I was so negative on it the first time around, and much kinder upon it the second time. Is the expectations were lowered, and I could watch the movie for what it was. This time coming with the baggage of having read a book that is substantially better, using the same names and the same characters and places and stuff like that. But I digress. So, yeah, it's an odd duck movie. I probably won't watch it again. My daughter watched it, and she kind of got wrapped up into it a little bit, but even this, she, when she kind of hopped in and out of watching it, she didn't laser focus like she had in some of the other Ghibli movies that she hadn't seen, where she came in and suddenly was just glued to the TV like only yesterday and things like that. This one just didn't clasp that attention, and she was convinced and trying to convince my wife that I was just rewatching a movie that I'd already watched over and over again, claiming that this was Princess Mononoke. She was convinced several times over that this was just that movie, and I was like, no, I promise, I'm not rewatching this movie. I'm not taking your TV time, child. Anyway, summertime kids, am I right? Anyway, what do you think of Tales of Earthsea? Have you revisited it since the first time you watched it and maybe saw it with a different lens when you temper expectations? Or in the context of Goro Miyazaki's career as a whole? I think this is not nearly as bad as I thought it was the first time, so I'm actually kind of interested to see how I respond to his work moving forward. The next film he directed, I've never seen, so I'm very excited to check that one out, and I hear it's his career best, but I've seen his other movies, and I'm curious to see where this falls in that context. Anyway, let me know what you think of this film, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and we'll be touching on Ponyo, I believe, next. Peace.